Coming up on a newscast. The 11th typhoon of the year is forecast to make landfall on South Korea early next week. Hinnomnor is first expected to approach Okinawa, Japan on Sunday. A Seoul-Tokyo summit could be held soon. According to South Korea's National Security Advisor, the meeting could happen on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. The nation's inflation growth slowed in August for the first time in 7 months. The CPI jumped on year, a slight slowdown from the surge in July, the fastest rise since the Asian financial crisis.
Hello, hope you're wrapping up the week well. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with our top story. The 11th typhoon of the year is expected to pass through Jeju and Busan early next week. Experts warn that Hinnomnor may become the strongest typhoon to ever hit the country. Jung Eun-ju starts us off.
Typhoon Hinnamnor is forecast to make landfall on the southern coast of South Korea early next week. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration on Friday, Hinnamnor was located in waters roughly 510 kilometers southeast of Taipei, Taiwan as of 3 p.m. Friday. The storm is expected to stagnate in the eastern seas of Taiwan for another day, turn northwest, and slowly approach Okinawa, Japan on Sunday. Hinnamnor is then forecast to pass the eastern sea of Jeju Island and Gyeongsang-namdo province at dawn next Tuesday and pass Busan on Tuesday afternoon. The 11th typhoon this year, Hinnamnor is currently classified as super strong, the strongest out of the 4-tier system. Korea's State Weather Agency predicts it to strengthen as it continues northward before its intensity drops to a strong typhoon once it nears South Korea. The KMA warned, however, that the typhoon will still be stronger than Typhoon Sarah in 1959, the strongest to hit South Korea. It's expected to have a central atmospheric pressure of 950 hectopascals and a maximum wind speed of 43 meters per second, which are winds strong enough to derail trains. The KMA says the impact radius will be as wide as 400 kilometers, so the whole country will fall under its influence.
The typhoon will cover almost all of South Korea. The main point is that the affected area remains the same, whether the typhoon lands on South Korea or not.
The KMA also warned of nationwide coastal swells and heavy rainfall. Experts predict up to 300 millimeters to fall on Jeju Island and up to 100 millimeters on the southern coast of the mainland during the weekend. Seoul will see between 20 to 7 millimeters on Sunday. The KMA says the peak of the typhoon will be next Monday and Tuesday, with sea levels rising during that time. The weather agency says it is difficult to accurately predict how long the storm will stay in South Korea because there are many factors that could affect it after making landfall. Jung Eun-ju, Arirang News.
President Yoon's National Security Advisor hinted that a Seoul-Tokyo Summit could be held this month on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly on the way back from Hawaii on Friday. After meeting his American and Japanese counterparts, Kim Sung-han told reporters that there were discussions about the timing of a summit but refrained from giving further details. The two leaders could meet on multilateral talks such as the UN General Assembly coming up on September 13th. Talks could also happen through shuttle diplomacy, a concept introduced in 2014, enabling the two sides to meet and talk as much as possible. Bilateral ties hit new lows in recent years over various matters, including historic issues. The National Security Advisors of Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo met in Hawaii. They discussed threats posed by North Korea as well as economic security issues. Officials agreed to respond sternly if the regime conducts a nuke test. Kim Bo-kyung brings the highlights from that session.
The three-way meeting between the National Security Advisors of South Korea, the United States, and Japan took place in Hawaii on Thursday. South Korea's National Security Office Director Kim Sung-han, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and their Japanese counterpart Takeo Akiba met at the headquarters of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command in Honolulu. Top of the agenda was North Korea. The three counterparts all agreed not to just easily overlook any North Korean nuclear tests and to take stern measures against the North if a seventh test takes place. They also agreed that there should not be naive thinking towards North Korea's nuclear tests and that the three countries' reaction would be certainly different from the past, letting North Korea know it was a bad decision to make.
There should be no naive thinking saying it was just one more new nuclear test after 6 times already, and neither should there be naive reactions.
North Korea conducted its 6th and most recent nuclear test in September 2017. South Korea's National Security Advisor Kim told reporters that the audacious initiative proposed by Yoon administration aiming for North Korea's denuclearization was also discussed. Both Japan and the United States reportedly showed a positive response and agreed to find ways to lure North Korea out for the conversation through a variety of incentives. The top security advisors had the same opinions on strengthening cooperation on economic security issues as well. According to Kim, the three counterparts shared opinions on cooperating on global supply chain issues, especially in the tech sector, and agreed to jointly deal with disruptions to the global supply chain. Kim also delivered Korean industry's concerns about the Inflation Reduction Act and the Chips and Science Act enacted in the U.S., calling for active cooperation from the U.S. National Security Council to tackle the issues, to which Sullivan said the U.S. will look into more closely. The three-way meeting between the top national security advisors was the first of its kind in 16 months, as well as the first since Yoon administration took office. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
President Yoon asked for active efforts from the U.S. state of Arizona to ensure Korean firms enjoy equal benefits as their American counterparts. He was referring to concerns over the Inflation Reduction Act during a meeting with the governor of Arizona in Seoul on Friday. Doug Anthony Ducey promised to do so and expressed hopes of seeing more Korean investment in the state. Early this month, President Joe Biden signed into law the bill which ends $7,500 worth of tax credits for EVs assembled outside of North America. The visiting UN Special Rapporteur was impressed by Seoul's commitment to addressing Pyongyang's human rights situation. However, Elizabeth Salmon did raise concerns over the repatriation of 2 North Koreans back in 2019. Min Soo-kyun shares with us her remarks.
The UN Special Rapporteur for North Korea's human rights, Elizabeth Salmon, says she's impressed with how South Korea is working to improve the human rights situation in the north. Salmon made the remarks at a press conference in Seoul on Friday while briefing on what she had discovered during her first visit to South Korea.
During my visit to the Republic of Korea, I have also been impressed by the active and dynamic civil society that is working to bring improvements to the situation of human rights in the DPRK. This includes escapees, the family members of victims, and a range of civil society organizations. They have helped to provide me with a panoramic view of the human rights issues in the DPRK.
Salmon also said she was encouraged by the commitment of senior South Korean government officials who seek to provide support. Earlier on Friday, the UN Special Rapporteur met with Seoul's Unification Minister Kwon Young-se. During their talks, Kwon reinforced the country's willingness to proactively address the human rights issues in North Korea.
While it is important for us to think about denuclearization and the improvement of inter-Korean ties, the Yoon Suk-yeol administration, as well as the Unification Ministry, also believes it's equally or even more important for us to think about the improvement of human rights in North Korea.
On South Korea's repatriation of 2 North Korean fishermen in 2019, the visiting UN Special Rapporteur said it was definitely a matter of concern, regardless of whoever made the decision. She promised to look into the case, stressing that Seoul should respect the international principle of non-refoulement, the principle of prohibiting any forcible repatriation. Going forward, Salmon stressed the need to take a victim-centered approach. This includes hearing the voices of victims and drawing more attention to their adversities. She vowed to engage with all stakeholders, such as governments, victims, and other relevant groups, to improve and guarantee the rights of North Koreans. The week-long trip comes as the rapporteur seeks to collect information on North Korea's human rights situation for an upcoming report to the UN General Assembly next month. Min Soo-kyun, Arirang News.
Starting next year, the nation's army will spend almost $300 million to enhance combat capabilities of Apache attack helicopters. The project is expected to be completed by 2027. The upgrades will add tactical data links to the choppers and buy additional fire control radar systems. Currently, the systems are on just a few of the 36 Apaches deployed in early 2017. As for the tactical data links, an official from the Arms Procurement Agency said they will be equipped with Link 16, the same military network system used by U.S. and NATO allies. From Saturday, South Korea won't require people to take COVID-19 PCR tests before entering the country. They'll still have to take one upon arrival, though changes are made to ensure travel for the Chuseok holidays will be made more convenient. Kim Jung-sil explains further.
From tomorrow, mandatory PCR tests before entering South Korea will no longer be required.
From midnight Saturday Korea time, all arrivals into the country will no longer need to show proof of a negative COVID-19 test result. This applies to everyone regardless of their country of departure or vaccination status. Authorities also warn, though, that negative PCR test results may be required again in the event of a new fatal variant surge from abroad. All arrivals will still need to take a PCR test within 1 day after entering the country. Rapid antigen tests will not be acknowledged. Meanwhile, there's no restrictions on gatherings during the upcoming Chuseok holiday for the first time since the start of the pandemic. Highway toll fees will be waived during the holiday period, and people will still be allowed to eat and drink on trains and buses, as has been the case since April. However, visits to nursing homes and hospitals for senior citizens will remain prohibited. On Friday, South Korea saw 89,586 new COVID-19 cases, around 11,000 fewer from the same day last week. The number of severe patients also decreased by 47 to 508. 64 new deaths have been reported, bringing the fatality rate to 0.12%. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
COVID-19 booster shots from Pfizer and Moderna that target Omicron variants are approved for use by the U.S. CDC. Director Rochelle Walensky signed off on the endorsement on Thursday, just hours after a vaccine advisory panel signaled its support in two 13-1 votes. This means that the boosters may be available in the states within days. The updated shots reportedly add Omicron BA4 and BA5 spike protein components to the current vaccine composition and can help provide broader protection against newer variants. The day before, the FDA granted emergency authorization for the bivalent shots for use as a single dose at least 2 months after primary or booster inoculation. Pfizer's updated product was approved for those 12 and older, Moderna's for 18 and up. Inflation in South Korea came down in August for the first time in 7 months. Prices had been rising at well over 6%, the highest in almost a quarter century. Consumers are feeling the impact ahead of a major holiday that involves family feasts. Ji-young helps us look beyond the digits.
South Korea's inflation softened in August for the first time in 7 months. Statistics Korea reported on Friday that the Consumer Price Index, a key gauge of inflation, went up 5.7% last month compared to the same period a year earlier. Although it has gone up, it's a slightly slower rate compared to the 6.3% surge in July, the fastest rise since November 1998 in the aftermath of the Asian financial crisis. The country's consumer prices grew at a slower pace in August after running at a 24-year high, but still far higher than the government's target of 2%. Statistics Korea says the softening is mostly due to the fall in global oil prices.
The rise in petroleum product prices has significantly slowed compared to the previous month, by 0.6%, a relatively large contraction.
The official added that the on-year growth in consumer prices is not likely to speed up much in September either due to the base effect, since prices were relatively high in September last year. Despite inflation starting to soften, consumers are still feeling the squeeze from the high prices, especially ahead of the Korean Thanksgiving holiday, Chuseok.
I'm planning to spend less for Chuseok. I visited traditional market today because they're usually cheaper. But 10,000 won doesn't go that far anymore. And it's cheaper to buy ready-made kimchi rather than making it myself because vegetables are so expensive.
Major items on people's grocery lists like vegetables were up nearly 28% from a year earlier. The price of Napa cabbage, used mainly for kimchi, surged by nearly 80%. Consumers are feeling it, and it's rough on merchants too, although it's a peak season for them in the run-up to Chuseok.
The price of this dried fish for Chuseok memorial tables went up by 500 won. Traditional sweets also that used to be 5,000 won are now 6,000. Customers are buying less because of the price hikes.
In order to ease the burden on consumers, the government will supply some 4,000 tons of goods that are in high demand, including cabbage and garlic, by releasing government stockpiles before Chuseok. An expert says to further curb high inflation, the government should take additional measures.
Raising the key interest rate is inevitable in order to reduce the liquidity, and more support from the government will be needed to stabilize people's livelihoods.
엄지영, Arirang News.
The South Korean currency has fallen to its lowest level against the greenback in more than 13 years. Friday session on the local market closed at 1,362.6, up about 7.7 from the day before. At one point on Friday, the exchange rate crossed 1,363, the highest intraday rate since the 2009 global financial crisis. Also, the third time this week, the won's hit a new yearly low. The Korean currency has been depreciating with growing concerns over rate hikes in the States and fears of a global economic recession. South Korea's two tech titans showcased their latest products at Europe's biggest electronics trade show. Samsung is unveiling a new software platform connecting home appliances and personal devices, even with other brands. LG unveiled a fridge with a display that can be controlled by a smartphone, as well as a number of products that blur the lines between furniture and appliances. Shin-Young takes us there.
One of Europe's biggest technology trade shows is back. From Friday, 1,900 firms from around the world are participating in the Internationale Funkausstellung in Berlin, or IFA 2022, a global exhibition of consumer electronics and home appliances. Among them, South Korea's Samsung and LG Electronics are two companies taking a lead in the exhibition. Samsung is promoting its latest tech at the IFA under the themes of smarter life and sustainable life. It's unveiling a software platform called SmartThings, which enables users to connect and control home devices from a variety of brands, including its own. The company, which is a leader in the global TV market, is also showcasing its range of TVs, from micro-LED TVs to neo-QLED TVs with ultra-fine picture quality. Odyssey Arc, a curved monitor for game playing, is another flagship model. Samsung will also have booths where people can experience the company's latest smartphones, the Galaxy Z Fold 4 and Z Flip 4, which are receiving massive attention from consumers. The latest models have already shipped more than twice the number across Europe compared to previous generation models last year. And another leading company at the show is LG Electronics. They're showcasing cutting-edge consumer-centered innovations under the theme of Life Reimagined. Among the latest technology offered by LG is a refrigerator with a color-changing display that can be controlled using an app. Visitors will also have the chance to experience OLED gaming using LG's bendable OLED gaming screen. The company is planning to target the European market by unveiling its first shoe care solution at the show too. Held in person for the first time after COVID-19 outbreak, the show will go on until next Tuesday. Shin-Young, Arirang News.
Tanuri was on schedule for a planned change in trajectory, a crucial moment that will determine whether its slingshot trajectory using the gravity of the sun will succeed. Even if there are setbacks in this process, South Korea's first lunar orbiter will still be able to make it to the moon. Song Yoo-jin has the full story.
Friday was a big day for Tanuri, South Korea's first lunar orbiter. At around 5 p.m. Korea time, the vehicle attempted a major directional shift near the Lagrange point 1, some 1.5 million kilometers away from the Earth. It was initially scheduled for 2 p.m. but was delayed while engineers waited to receive and analyze more data to ensure that the shift was more accurate. This process is known as the trajectory correction maneuver. TCM for short, it involves the use of a thruster to adjust an orbiter's path, making sure it arrives at the target location. The Korea Aerospace Research Institute said the day before that Tanuri's direction, position, and speed will be corrected so that it heads to the moon. So far, it had been sailing towards the sun as part of its boomerang-shaped ballistic lunar transfer trajectory.
This stage will decide whether Tanuri can loop back properly and travel toward the moon as planned. Tanuri could still head somewhere near the moon without this maneuver. But there's an exact target point that we wanted to enter because we aim at minimizing the amount of fuel it uses. So we can definitely say that this is an important step.
After verifying the maneuver's success, Kari will announce the outcome on Sunday. This was supposed to be the orbiter's third TCM. But the second one on August 12th was canceled because no corrections were needed after the first on August 7th, 2 days after Tanuri's launch. After Friday, there were 6 more planned. They will work to remove trajectory errors to help Tanuri safely arrive in lunar orbit this December. It will then conduct a range of studies throughout its year-long mission. They include investigating the moon to check for resources like water, taking high-resolution images of the moon's surface, and sending them back to Earth. 송유진, Arirang News.
The nation's music industry has been garnering greater global attention. Producers are coming up with some of the most original Korean productions. While the sector is rapidly growing, there are some issues to be addressed. Kim Hyun-sung provides a deeper analysis.
Korean musicals are on the rise. Experts project that by the end of this year, the South Korean musical market may grow into a $300 million industry. And in this growing business, Korean originality is reaching further and further. The musical Jeokbyuk matches the most traditional of Korean sounds to Western-style musicals. It pairs traditional music known as pansori with contemporary dance.
This performance is a rebellion, created by people who fell in love with the sounds and expression of pansori. When a modern rhythm is incorporated with pansori, it's explosive.
The director says that the piece doesn't follow the Western style of storytelling with good guys and bad guys and comedy or tragedy. It's laced with stories of heroes and commoners and all different kinds of emotions.
In Korean music and pansori, I had to really pour out my emotions to the point where my throat hurts. In pansori, the sounds are more rough and real.
Popular Korean dramas are also being reborn. The worldwide hit K-drama series Crash Landing on You is going to premiere as a musical this coming September.
Crash Landing on You shows a unique love story between a man and woman in a country that's still divided. It's a K-musical piece that has a unique Korean sentiment.
The director, who also plays one of the main characters, says that laughter is guaranteed. And this musical has high expectations of hopefully one day reaching a global audience.
When people go to New York, they watch Broadway shows. It would be great if catching a show here in Korea becomes a natural part of the tour for visitors.
But Korean originality is facing some critical challenges.
When Korea makes musicals, it tries to follow the Western model a lot. A lot of pieces still don't have a unique Korean color to them yet.
The musical Seopyeonjae is struggling to compete with this Western favoritism. The piece premiered back in 2010, and the story depicts the struggle of pansori musicians. Critics say that it's a rare musical piece where the unique Korean color shines through. But this year may perhaps be the last chance for audiences to enjoy this gem.
There are no investors because they don't see a commercial success to it. I think that this is a great piece that's worth protecting, so it's heartbreaking to see it end because there are no investors.
The Korean musical industry holds bags of potential to go further, but critics fear that it will leave behind the most original of Korean stories. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
The potent Typhoon Hinnamnor is forecast to be much stronger than some of the more severe ones that hit South Korea in the past, such as Sara or Mimi. It is projected to have an impact on the peninsula early next week. Hinnamnor is set to move southwest to the waters off Okinawa, Japan overnight. It will then alter its course to veer north and approach the south of Jeju Island. It is forecast to pass through the coastlines of Gyeongsangnam-do province around next Tuesday. Jeju Island and the south coast will see local downpours of 30 to 50 millimeters per hour. By Sunday, the entire nation will see rain and gusty winds, so please take extra precautions. As for the amount of rain, Jeju Island will see severe downpours of up to 350 millimeters. The south coast will see about 150. The Seoul metropolitan area and parts of Jeollanam-do and Gyeongsangnam-do provinces will see 20 to 70 millimeters. Morning lows in Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at 20 degrees Celsius. As for the daily highs, Seoul and Gwangju will be reaching 28, Daegu 24, Gyeongju will be breezy at 23 degrees. With the cold rain, temperatures will stay below the seasonal norms until next Tuesday. It's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.